For part 2 of this recording, I'm going to go through some comments along the right-hand side of my page and let you know what's expected for the learning targets in each section. Feel free to pause this video, type on your own document, and then come back to resume. To begin, for our heading, we want this to be in the upper left-hand corner, single-spaced, and we just want to have your name, the class period, the date, and the name of the assignment. For our purposes, personal scope article number 1. If you wrote out of Scholastic Junior, Scholastic Action, okay, you can put whatever magazine is listed. For our title, we'd like to gain the attention of the reader, but we don't want to tell everybody what it's going to be about. So leave a sense of mystery, give them a good title, get them interested. The first few sentences of the attention getter, we want to keep it general. We don't want to give away exactly what we're going to talk about in our paper, but we do want to have a general connection. So for instance, here I start with the music that's going to lead into the national anthem, and eventually my paragraph will then work down into the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, but I'm kind of talking about something that everybody can make a connection with. Most people have been to some sort of event where the national anthem has been played. Most people have said the Pledge of Allegiance in their life. Okay, this particular sentence beginning with similar makes a connection now from our attention grabber to what the paper is actually going to be about. So we go from the national anthem to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the next set of sentences causes us to think a little bit about the connection we can make. So we say, think about how many times people in our nation speak the words of the pledge. Okay, that should get your reader thinking about different times that they've done something or how they can make a connection with your paper. And as we work down to the last sentence of the introduction, this is our thesis statement, or what we call our author's message. And this is where we hear exactly what we're going to hear in our paper. We want to try and get our article, our author's name, and then a general explanation of what the whole thing is going to be about. Don't take a side, just explain what the article's purpose is. Okay, when we get into our summary, we have to have topic sentences. If we have one paragraph, we have a topic sentence. If we split it up into 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs, each paragraph will have a topic sentence. Okay, you can see in my example that the topic sentence is going to deal with when the Pledge of Allegiance was written. One thing we want to try and do throughout is try to get our author's name in and then start to put in some power verbs. Okay, here's an example. I could have said Brown begins by saying, or Brown says, but instead I've used the word discussing. Okay, that's a little bit more of a power verb. Okay, as we read through, if there's any word-for-word sentences that you're using exactly from the article, it's important that you use quotation marks. So for example, salute to the flag to mark the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in America. I think that's powerful because it's a good sentence and it's used right from the text, and I use quotation marks. Okay, now we do not want to fill up every paragraph with quotation marks and just use all the sentences from the article. We want to use our own words and our own sentences, but every once in a while there is power in putting in a quote directly from the article. When it is time to switch from one idea to the next in a paragraph or from paragraph to paragraph, we want to continue to use transitional words, and those will make connections. Okay. This is a summary of the article. I could have written all the paragraphs as one large paragraph, but I think this is a nice place to divide. The opening paragraph talks about how it was written. Now, following the draft of the pledge, many people were concerned about the words, and some felt that they would be forced to give up loyalties to their heritage. So this paragraph should be all about the specific words, people's concerns, and immigrants who might be forced to give up their heritage. Okay, it is a transitional phrase because the draft of the pledge, that was the creation which is mentioned up here. We do insert a comma, and then following that we talk about what's going to come in this paragraph to follow. We want to continue throughout the entire document, throughout our paper, to use the author's name and try to put in different and more power verbs instead of the words said or says. Okay, again, when it's time to switch from one idea or one reason to the next, continue to use transitional words. That helps the reader follow when you're ready to switch from reason to reason to reason or to new ideas. Okay, here we have another use of a power verb instead of says, plus the author's name. Okay, here I'm introducing my last reason. Okay, and I don't always have to say finally or in conclusion. Here I used one of the last, okay, meaning final, debates over the wording. Okay, and you can see we're still talking about the specific words, and this all talks about people's concerns. Okay, I mentioned this before, but even two words, a simple phrase, under God, was used directly from the article, so I did give credit to the article here, and I used quotation marks. Okay, going into a few more reasons. Not only just a transitional word, but we can put in a transitional phrase or a group of words. Okay, we could have said, however, Brown said or says, but we're using a power verb instead. So keep thinking about different words that you can use instead of said. Here we have two sentences that are going to work together as a transition and a topic sentence. Since the creation, there has been much debate over the wording and purpose of the pledge. That's what we heard up above. The different wordings, why people were angry with how it was created, why they wanted it changed. Next paragraph coming up, however, Brown contends that both American flag and the Pledge of Allegiance continue to be symbols which promote patriotism. So now this paragraph should talk about why they are positive symbols today and how patriotic they can be. Okay, again, we're going to use our author's name and a power verb. Again, you see we have quotation marks to show that I took one exact word-for-word phrase from the article. Okay, outside of these quotation marks, everything else is my own words. It's ideas from the article, but it's put into my own words, my own sentences. Okay, this is kind of a unique one. We have, in contrast to viewing the pledge as negative. So up here we're talking about how some people in our nation didn't like the fact that Donald Trump became president, so they weren't going to do this. Okay, now if we're going to give the flip side to that, that's the negative. If we can give the positive, we can say, in contrast to viewing the pledge as negative, Brown also points out, okay, and then we can give the other side. Okay, so think about transitional words. If you're giving opposites, use the word contrasting, or similarities, you can use comparing. Okay, I have another quote that I used from the article. Another thing to note is the quotes are short that I'm using. Okay, we're not having 3 or 4 or 5 lines to fill up a paragraph simply to make a paragraph long by using quotes from the article. We're picking and choosing short ones that really make a point or really add to what you're saying. Now we're going to switch over from last summary paragraph. This is the personal opinion paragraph. And I'm going to begin by showing that there's a different view other than mine. While I acknowledge there have been many shortcomings in American history, and then I'm going to switch over and I'm going to say, I agree with, get my author's name in here, Brian Brown's belief that we need these symbols and things. So I'm going to show that there's a different side, but I'm also going to say my own opinion. One sentence, one topic sentence. Okay, and then you can see, again, some transitional words. First and foremost, I'm going to give my reason. I'm going to have a sentence that's going to explain that reason. I'm going to use a transitional phrase, in addition to freedom, which I talked about right here, comma, patriotic symbols. Okay, and I'm going to move on to talk about that. I have a couple of sentences here that are going to explain that second reason. And then we are going to move into my final reason. Okay, and then we're going to end that paragraph. Okay, but we want to make sure those transitional words are really important as we move from idea to idea so that things stay organized. Okay, and to end, we want some kind of conclusion or some kind of ending couple of sentences that are really going to drive our point home, what we believe in our personal opinion, so that readers have no doubt which side we are on. Even if you have a yes/no article and you're talking about you can see both sides, make it very clear at the end if you're for something for a couple reasons, what are your main reasons you're for it, but if you do see a reason to be against it, what are one or two reasons? Make each side very clear. Okay, so for my concluding sentence here, you can see that I went back and thought about my introduction. Okay, the idea of people being in the arena, hearing the national anthem, so I chose to try and tie that back in. I used the word imagine, okay, and take a moment to consider that phrase. So hopefully when people read those, they slow down a little bit and they actually start to think about those in their head. Okay, put here that it is awesome if you can make a connection from the beginning to the end, and then when you get to the end, back to the beginning. Okay, so it's kind of like a circle. The reader will feel kind of complete if it starts off one way. You make your points, you give your opinion, and that can kind of end back where it started. Okay, and my final thoughts for you as you work through this, always make sure that you ask questions. If you're not sure, or if anything that you've seen on this video or in the handouts do not make sense. Writing is hard. Don't quit. It does take perseverance and determination to arrange all the words the way you want them, not only so that they make sense, but also that they impress the reader. And this is where we get some of your personal voice into your papers. So have some fun. Let me know if you need any help, and best of luck. Conrady out.